Greetings, everyone. My name is Kgomotso Thomas, and welcome to my presentation. I titled it Professional Learning Communities as Opportunities to Support Teachers' Capabilities and Valued Functionings for Climate Change in Education. We know that climate change is the biggest problem we are facing globally, and Southern Africa is no exception from that. So, addressing climate change is now one of the major issues on the international political agenda, and it must be one of the issues that require emphasis in education. The role of education in addressing the challenges of climate change is increasingly recognized and is very crucial in the attainment of Sustainable Development Goal number 13, which is about taking agent action combat climate change and its impact. And it is through education that people can have knowledge and skills, especially children and young people. They can have knowledge and skills to make informed decisions about how to adapt their individual lives and ecological, social, or economic systems in a changing environment. And a lot of research has been done internationally and also in Southern Africa on education for sustainable development. And it has been highlighted that ESD is key in reducing the impacts of climate change. It engages with key issues such as human rights, poverty reduction, sustainable livelihoods, and gender equality. And it also encourages changes in behavior that will create a more sustainable future. So climate change is therefore a subject that is well within the ESD agenda, and it is through it that learners will be able to understand the impacts of climate change and to be empowered on how to adopt appropriate actions to more sustainable lifestyles. So I highlighted um, gender equality in the second point there on my presentation because I believe it's one thing that we need to always bear in mind when we deal with climate change issues. It is well established that effects of climate change are not gender neutral due to pre-existing inequalities. It is even harder for women and girls to adapt, you know. So if climate change education is to improve students' understanding of adaptation and increase their adaptive capacities, it should take gender into account as a cross-cutting topic. So that's one point that I just wanted to bring across. So to mitigate or adapt to climate change, countries all over the world have acknowledged that education for sustainable development, which includes teaching and learning about climate change, is key, like I've already explained. Um, and they've therefore put in place policies that promote climate change education. They've also signed up different climate change conventions and have put in place interventions to combat climate change and its impacts through mainstreaming it in the education systems. Even in Southern Africa, there have been great efforts to integrate ESD in the schooling system, and research has been conducted in Southern Africa as well on the integration and implementation of ESD in school curricula across different subjects. I know that even in Southern Africa, research has been done, like I said, in different subjects: geography, life sciences, biology, and other subjects. With the integration of environment and sustainability content, including climate change, in the curriculum, teachers need greater support in integrating this content in their teaching. There's need for in-depth understanding of environment and sustainability content knowledge. There's need for greater continuous professional development support, and teachers also need relevant learning and teaching resources. So, from research that has been conducted on the integration of ESD in the curriculum, strong recommendations have been made on continuous teacher professional development support, enhance teachers' knowledge in environment and sustainability content. And talking from experience, um, like this once off training sessions for teachers are not really that effective, because you go there as a teacher for a few hours or for just a day, you learn a few things, then going back to your school, there is no continuous support to help you develop further, like to develop your content knowledge or your classroom practice in a particular subject. So those ones of training programs are not really that effective. Um, they don't have that continued meaningful support, for teachers. So as a result, they don't have a noticeable impact on improving teachers' current practices. Um, so for professional development programs to be effective, they need to have personal meaning to teachers who are participating in them, and they should be relevant to their needs. Because as a teacher, when you are participating in a program, in a professional development program, you want your needs to be addressed. You want the session to speak to the challenges that you are having in the classroom. You want the program to address um, the challenges that you might be having in the subject that you're teaching. It should be relevant to the needs of teachers. And one other thing is that we also need programs that are aligned with teachers' personal needs and motivations. So that's what makes professional development programs effective, if they are aligned to what teachers need. Um, so, with that being said, professional learning communities provide an opportunity for that. And in the next slide, I will just give a brief explanation of what professional learning communities are, and some of the characteristics that um, these PLCs have. So, professional learning communities, or PLCs in short, refers to a group of professionals or teachers sharing and critically interrogating their practice in an ongoing, reflective, collaborative, inclusive, learning oriented, growth promoting way to support innovation and knowledge sharing. Um, PLCs are a great opportunity for supporting teachers in climate change education. Um, this is where teachers are able to define their own professional development needs, and are also able to define the kind of support that they require. So there's learning together, there's sharing, there's support, promote growth. And some of the characteristics of the PLCs um, are there, although this is not all of them, but these are um, one of the most important ones. So professional and communities must have shared values and vision, collective responsibility, supportive conditions and shared leadership, reflective professional inquiry, group and individual learning, like, that should be promoted in these. And in South Africa, professional learning communities were promoted through the integrated strategic planning framework for teacher education and development, which was implemented in 2011 by the Department of Basic Education. And what this framework emphasizes is that teachers should be the central focus of professional learning communities, and they should take leadership roles. So, like I was saying, PLCs are an opportunity for teachers to be able to drive their own professional development with the support, of course, from the different stakeholders. So they are an opportunity for us. I mean, if we want to address climate change education, if we want to support teachers in integrating climate change education in their teaching, then the best approach would be professional learning communities. So in this part of the presentation, I draw from the research I did for my master's on PLCs. So I conducted a study to explore how professional learning communities can contribute to the development of teachers' capabilities and functionings. So functionings are what people value doing or being um, related to teaching sustainability and environmental content knowledge in natural sciences. So although this was a study which focused on the subject of natural sciences, but I believe that the lessons from the research can apply to other subjects and can also apply to other topics related to sustainability and environment content, including climate change. So it was a case study of a natural sciences PLC in the Northwest Province in South Africa. And I generated data through questionnaires, classroom observations, PLC observations, and interviews. And the study had 13 participants. So those were teachers who were teaching natural sciences from grade 7 to grade 9, but some were in different grades. Um, so from this study, I was able to, um, to learn what teachers value um, in teaching sustainability and environmental content in natural sciences. And I was also able to explore um, what teachers value in professional learning communities. So I just want to share briefly like some of the findings on what teachers value, because like I was saying that if we want professional development um, to be meaningful to teachers, we need to understand what teachers need. We need to take into account what teachers value. So I believe that also in supporting teachers in climate change education, we must be able to understand what teachers need and how they want to be supported. In that way, we are able to make sure that the learning programs or the professional development programs that teachers participate in are effective. In the next slide, I'm just going to quickly go through what teachers expressed as their valued functionings, in professional learning communities. So these are some of the findings from the study that I did on PLCs. I was able to interview teachers on what they value in PLCs for their professional development. And so these are some of the things that they expressed it is not everything, but I just felt like this might be the relevant ones to share for this session. So the first one there is about expanding their knowledge in ESD matters of concern. So, I mean, there are different topics in natural sciences that deal with environment and sustainability. Although some of them may not be that explicit, but teachers were able to identify such topics in their subject, and they felt that they were not confident enough in teaching some of those topics. So they expressed that they would also be interested in taking up like short courses in those topics, or be involved in programs that are dealing with uh, um, ESD content, in the curriculum. And then the second one was around discussion of subject content. So in this one, what teachers were saying was that they felt like in most of the PLC sessions, um, sometimes it was too general for them. They were not really focusing on particular um, topics. So what they would really love was to have enough time, to deal with a specific subject content, especially topics that they're struggling with. So I believe that other programs that are also dealing with climate change education should take that into consideration, to give teachers ample time, to discuss in detail, to let teachers share their challenges and share um, possible solutions with each other in terms of how to teach those subject content. And that is linked to the third point of improving teaching practices. Um, so most teachers wanted to learn new methods, new approaches of teaching these topics which are related to environment and sustainability, because most of them were still stuck in, those I want to call them old methods of teaching, where you just stand in front of the classroom, write on the chalkboard, read from the textbook. But there were some who were willing, to explore different approaches, because with environmental topics, you need to be creative. You need to use different approaches. You need to um, um, make lessons interesting for learners. I mean, for example, if you are teaching about a topic related to biodiversity, you can't just teach from the textbook without taking learners outside, for them to actually see what you were teaching in the classroom, to do practicals with learners, to do projects, to do investigations. So, although teachers know that these are some of the methods which are recommended in the CAPS policy, but they were still not able to explore for different reasons those different methods of teaching. So that's why they also valued in PLCs. And then I think I've touched a bit on the fourth one, doing field work. Most of them were like, we want to be able to take our learners out of the classrooms, take them for excursions, take them to the nearest game reserve. If I'm teaching about um, biodiversity or plants, animals, I want to be able to take learners to be able to see the things that we talk about in classroom. And for them, that was important because they want learners to experience real world issues, not only to learn about them from the classroom, but to also experience them. And I think that is also an important aspect, also in climate change education. We want learners to be able to identify local relevant issues, um, and be able to link what they are learning in the classroom to their everyday life experiences. So those are the kind of things that we want to achieve through this professional learning communities, to make sure that we are able to, to support teachers to do this kind of work, to support teachers in achieving what they value. And then the last one there, oh, not the last one, the second last one is about getting more support. So it is getting support in terms of when they want to do uh, um, those kind of, let's say, field works with their learners. Sometimes they don't get support from the school management. So they wanted to get more support from the school management, from subject advisors, and also to have external experts um, who are knowledgeable in the field, to come and empower them, to come and teach them and give them support where they need them. And then the last one there, it's about having access to relevant learning and teaching support materials. So I think this was um, the number one thing that teachers valued in PLC, is to say that they want to have access to materials that they can use in class with learners, and not only textbooks, but uh, different resources, that they can use to teach, that they can use with learners. So these are the main things that came up from that study, like what teachers value in PLCs. And I believe that we want to take these things into account, when we implement professional learning communities, or in the already existing teacher professional programs. These are kind of things that we need to take into consideration in order for us to help teachers improve their teaching practice, um, and also to improve their content knowledge. So in the next slide, I'm just going to now get into the project that we are working with, which is focusing specifically on climate change education. So the project that I'm working on is called Keep It Cool Climate Change Education Project. And our aim is to address climate change through education. So the main objective of our project is to utilize the education sector as a strategic resource in South Africa's transition towards a more climate resilient society. And we will be supporting 200 secondary school teachers through a professional development training in climate change, in geography and natural sciences. And at the end, teachers are expected to design curriculum aligned climate change adaptation projects that should involve their students and the school community and the local community, and prompt them to recognize locally relevant climate change adaptation challenges and try out possible responses. Um, and then we also have another component where we will be um, using the PLC model, for continuous teacher development and support. So we don't want to just train teachers, but we want to also make sure that they form PLCs where there will be ongoing support for their development in climate change education. So on this slide, I'm just going to explain the system of activities in the KIC project. So the way we've structured the project is in such a way that all the activities in the project are not isolated, but each embeds the other and builds from the work in each level. So we starting there. At the center, we have training of teachers by our partner universities. So in the training, that is where teachers will experiment with sustainability activities in creating an adaptation project, which I explained that that's the ultimate goal for teachers to, together with their learners and school community, come up with climate change adaptation project. So during the training, they will experiment with that. They will come up with ideas, try them out, and reflect on them, and you know, um, so that is part of the training. And of course, from the training, the teachers will receive a certification and get CPD points from that. And then the PLCs will build into the training before and after. So during the training, teachers will be introduced to PLCs, and they will form PLCs during the training and then continue with those even after the training. So this will help in strengthening the curriculum aligned climate change adaptation projects that they need to have. So each level build up to the curriculum aligned projects from the training, and then we have the PLCs. And then the next level that we have now is the SMTs, the school management teams. Um, um, like I indicated in the previous slide where teachers indicated that they want support from their school leaders. So even in our project, we made sure that the element of school management teams is there, that component is there, because um, if teachers are getting support from the school leadership, they are able to create a positive and conducive environment um, for the PLCs, which they will form in the schools and maybe outside the schools, like PLCs between the schools. So we also bring in that element of school leadership to say, let's bring in school leadership in one of the activities that we have in the project. Um, and then there's also another level of the research. Now, the research is designed to trace the teacher development training and also the implementation of those climate change adaptation projects. So everything builds from the work done in each level until we reach that stage where now teachers together with their learners um, are able to come up with those curriculum aligned curriculum aligned climate change adaptation project. So this is just an overview of the system of activities in the AIC project. So this diagram is just to further explain what I was talking about in the previous slide. So we're looking here at effective professional development system for climate change education within a CAPS curriculum. So in the previous one, I explained that we'll start with training the teachers, in climate change in the different subjects. So there's a first step there, which is developing awareness and procedural and propositional knowledge on climate change. And then we go into the second one, which is building knowledge and understanding. So there we are looking at pedagogical content knowledge, active teaching and learning in the different subject. So teachers will also um, build their knowledge and understanding during the training, but that has to translate from the training to their classrooms. So that is where we go now into the third step there, which is translate knowledge into practice. You know, So translating knowledge into practice, it also involves how they will teach in class. So they go for training in climate change, on how to teach in their different subjects. From there, they go back to their classrooms, and then they translate that knowledge into practice. But not only that, this will also include the conceptualization of um, their climate change adaptation project. So whatever ideas that they tried during the training, now they go back to school, they try it with their learners, and come up with ideas, try them, and yeah, and then that leads to step number 4 there, which is practicing new knowledge. So like I said, they have to they translate knowledge into practice, then they practice that new knowledge. So it's just trying out um, the ideas, trying out what they learned from the training. So they will also at this stage implement those climate change project goals. So from conceptualizing, now they they implementing their ideas, and then the fifth one there is creating opportunities to reflect. So this is where professional learning communities also come in to say, okay, we went for training, and then in the training we're conceptualizing the ideas that we have around the climate change adaptation projects that we can um, do with our learners. Then they go back to their schools, they try that with their learners. Now, in the PLCs, more opportunities are created for them to reflect. And it's not only reflection on the project, but also reflection on their teaching practices, reflection on um, their content knowledge, reflection on um, the assessment practice, so that is the next step there. And then it goes round and round. So it's about, conceptualizing and trying out ideas, reflecting on those ideas, and trying them out again. So this is the whole picture of how the Keep It Cool Climate Change Education Project is working. And then what we want to do is, if with all of these activities that we have in place, we want to be able to understand how best we can um, implement this PLCs for climate change. So I've put down a question in the last slide there, which I believe we'll be able to start a conversation around the implementation of effective professional learning communities to enhance teachers' capabilities in climate change. So let me go to the next slide. Um, for this session, there are two questions that we need to ask ourselves. The first one is, what have we learned? So it will be great to hear from you, what have you learned from this presentation? But what I want to bring across in concluding is that PLCs are a great opportunity for enhancing teachers' capabilities in climate change education. We support teachers in integrating climate change in their teaching, and we support them with all the necessary resources they need to teach climate change. We know that in turn they will be teaching thousands and thousands of learners and young people who will be able to have a voice um, in addressing challenges against climate change education, and they will be able to um, um, help in combating climate change and its impact. It's not only about teachers, it's bigger than that. We support teachers, and by doing that, we are educating thousands and thousands of young people who will take a stand against uh, climate change, and they'll be able to find ways of adapting to climate change. So, the question that I want to pose is what support mechanisms are needed for climate change education PLCs to be effective and sustainable? So, this is just one question that will also help us to think about how can we support teachers in climate change education, um, especially in formal education. Um, then, yeah, and then the other question is what do we still need to do? So, in terms of professional development in climate change education, what can we still do, to support teachers? What can we do as the project to support teachers? What can we do um, as different stakeholders in education support teachers in climate change education, in integrating this in their teaching? So, with that being said, I believe that this was an interesting presentation, and I look forward to engaging with everyone during the symposium. Thank you very much for your time.